Hello and welcome to our Reboot review. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and we still haven't come up with a name for the show, but that's okay because we're forging ahead.
Yes.
So this is episode 2, Racing the Clock, which originally aired September 17th, 1994. The number one song in America hasn't changed this week, and there's no major video game releases, so we're going to skip those. The only thing that has changed is, Dave, what is the number one film in America this week? And I doubt you've seen it, but I kind of hope you have.
Well, again, with the track record of last week being that particular one, it's mostly a case of trying to think of what did come around that time and supposedly had with that. And there's one or two particular things that kind of spur to mind, but it's a question of would it be comedy wise that came out, or would it still be the Oscar bait that would be coming out at around that time?
Dave, I will tell you that it is neither. It is technically a comic book movie, and it is also a Jean Claude Van Damme movie.
Ah, shoot. Despite the fact that I know of that name, I can't specifically kind of pinpoint time range what the heck he was working on at the time.
Okay, it's a movie called Time Cop.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, I got nothing. This is completely new to me.
Okay, you should watch Time Cop. Time Cop is legitimately good.
Duly noted.
This could also just be like a nostalgia thing. But anyway, yes, Time Cop was number one at the box office this week. Anyway, let's move on to Reboot. So, episode
Yes.
2, Racing the Clock. Oh, dear God.
In the typical sort of sense, in the one other sense of things, or the case of it's essentially involves a character that you're not super content with.
Okay. So, I'm going to try to go over this episode, and feel free to add anything that I miss.
Duly noted.
Okay. So, the episode starts with Enzo having decided
Yes.
he wants to have a delivery business.
Yes.
He has some, I forget what it's called. He has some delivery business, but he's not getting any customers. And then he lies to
Yeah,
Dot
no.
and Bob, and he's like, "Oh, I'm super successful, yada yada yada." And then Megabyte calls him and is like, "Hey, homie, I want you to do all my deliveries for me. But first, you got to do this one delivery so that I know you're reliable." And Enzo's like, "Oh shit, it's Megabyte. I probably shouldn't deal with this guy. But on the other hand, I don't want to look like a dummy." So he's like, oh, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll just lie to Dot about who the delivery's for." And he tells her that it's for Jean-Luc, which is
Yes.
which is quite funny.
It
Um,
is.
and then basically very and then no, because he has to take it to hexadecimal because we get introduced to
Yes.
hexadecimal this episode.
Yes.
And Dot's like, "You ain't doing no delivery to hexadecimal. Bob, you go do it."
Yeah.
So Bob kind of just gets pulled into this because fuck Bob, apparently.
Well, additionally, he's kind of the big character of the show.
It's true. So then he goes to deliver this mask. Well, it's a mask with a bomb hidden in it to Hexadecimal, and Hexadecimal is a great designed character. Like, oh my
Oh
god,
my
that is
god,
such a
he's
good
so
design.
amazing.
Because like she has like this mask and she changes it for like each emotion that she's feeling and stuff. It's so good. It's such a good design for a villain.
Again, I didn't specifically have it at the time, but hearing other particular people discuss about the series and other sorts of stuff, she is essentially the complete, pure chaos character within this game or within the show.
She is, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So Bob then she Hexadecimal somehow figures out that the mask is a bomb and like straps it to Bob's face and shoots him off to fucking Megabyte. But then a game loads,
Yes.
and is this the one where they're in the planes or is this the racing one?
This one is the racing ones, but it does have planes in it.
Right. Okay. So it's a Formula One game, and they have to drive around, and they're one lap they're a car, and the next they're like a fucking fan boat, and then they're a plane, and Bob has to like Basically, they have to save him from exploding because of this mask bomb thing that's strapped to his car now. Because it was on his
Yeah,
face, but now it's on his car, and and I can't explain why.
yeah, it goes into a couple small specific sort of points, but it kind of gets into the deep dive, all the specific parts of the how the show specifically works, but technically isn't explained unless you stretch out the particular truths of what you can understand, as well as all the stuff that supposedly gets explained later in the series.
So they end up. Well, no, they don't do shit really. Bob and Enzo are kind of, or not Bob. Dot and Enzo are kind
No,
of useless in this because they really don't do anything.
they try their best.
I guess. But Glitch saves Bob because Glitch is a Deus Ex Machina, and we can't have Bob die in the second episode.
Yeah, it would probably hurt the numbers for the show.
And then what else happens after that? Megabyte's just pissed off, and Hexadecimal's like, haha, I didn't die. Am I missing
Yeah,
anything?
well, I think I'll go through the couple little bits and points that you kind of touched on, but didn't go into too much detail. From Hexadecimal, she has a servant named Scuttles, small
Oh,
little
yes.
orb-like robot that acts like a cat, but has a magical crystal ball inside of its head that can catch particular stuff that's going on, such as the deleting program that's inside of the mask that would most likely kill Hexadecimal. So she's like, not having any of that business. So it's like, well, let's send this back to Megabyte and see how he likes it.
Right, yeah, I forgot about that bit.
So going into the game, reaching the end of the race, Bobby Jex gets out of the ship before everything explodes. And yeah, this thing explodes inside of the game. So that game is completely deleted off of that computer. It's so sad.
Oh, this is the part where something something happens here. Something gets fucked up because the game like corrupts or whatever.
Yes. We didn't go into too much detail because it was one or two particular parts within the previous episode, but essentially within the world, randomly games show up. Giant big purple cubes that just slam down on a place.
But we're never explained to why Bob has to go into them, other than he has to go into them. Just deal with it, dickheads.
Essentially, I think it's just one of his jobs as a guardian program.
I guess, but I don't know why. Because the Guardian, how I understand it, is he's basically like an antivirus program.
Yes.
I don't understand why the antivirus program has to get involved with somebody's good time while they're playing Doom.
Yeah, understandable.
But continue, continue.
So, central rule of it, person goes in, plays the game. If they lose to the characters in the game goes away. Everyone's fine. It's all good. If the player character actually decides to win the game, everything gets nuked. Just a square leftover bombed out square from where the game originally was, and everyone is reboot termed nullified.
Yeah, because they can't say killed.
Yeah, yeah.
Because this is a show for kids. I also don't understand why playing a game on your computer and beating it therefore destroys part of your computer. That's not a real thing.
Yeah, no.
It's like every time you beat a game on your computer, Dave, one of your capacitors is just going to burst.
Yeah, so sad. Have to go out to the store and get the couple more pieces I need so my computer can actually work.
But I also understand that they need something that they can do every episode. Like
You
for,
gotta have them stakes.
yeah, they have to have stakes every episode. This is an easy way to do it. It maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I get why it's being done.
Yes. So, additionally, the one last point I forgot to make with the first episode, but especially with this episode, are the actual games being played. So, quickly from the first episode, it was space themed. And the first thing that came to my mind was Star Fox, but most likely there was about the 3,527 other space games that were on computers at around the time that most likely everyone else could probably mention.
I feel like Star Fox is a pretty, like, that would have been definitely top of mind for this. and
Mhm.
they already made a fucking Star Trek reference earlier.
So very true. So true. And of course, with this one, it was racing with several different vehicles. So essentially, Mario Kart, Diddy Kong Racing, Formula Racing, and about 16 other types of racing that all were all smushed into one. Or Sonic Team Racing, which was made several years later.
It okay. I will say this: this game looks like it would have been really fun to play in 1994.
It would have been an absolute blast if any sort of computer could manage it.
I I feel like it would have been doable in '94 on PC. Because
Possibly, but it would probably only be like
you have to remember,
the
we're
one
only
game that's coming to mind is either Dragon's Lair or like the old point and click choose your adventure sort of things. Like have your racer sit in the spot. You want to go forward? Hits forward. Plays a cutscene showing the driving thing. You have an obstacle. Click what you're gonna do.
I mean, maybe, but I also feel like the N64 is only 2 years away, and this doesn't look that much better than like Super Mario 64.
I'll give you that. Mario 64 had a hell of a lot more pixels, but still.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like it would have been doable. Anyway, that's irrelevant to this.
So very true.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I think the one particular thing we never specifically mentioned was the term reboot within the show is the characters once placed within inside the game takes on the game's function by saying reboot, tapping an icon on themselves, and getting placed within a certain role inside of the game world. So, kart racer, you get placed in a cart as one of the opponents.
Yeah, it's basically like fucking like Power Ranger shit, where they do their morphin thing.
Yes.
I assume that's what they were trying to like bank on. They're like, well, Power Rangers is popular. Let's do some Power Rangers like stuff.
I suppose. It might have also just been a case of how the heck are we going to stick these specific characters into these specific sort of forms? Does it immediately happen? Does it go through any sort of specific process? It's like, let's just use the title and have them reboot and become the specific form when they're inside the game. Because
Yeah,
that's kind of the only one thought I had in my head when I was thinking about it.
yeah. I mean, I definitely got a Power Rangers vibe from it, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Maybe.
But I mean, it's like a pretty standard kids show kind of thing. Like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, I thought this episode was fine, except the show
Didn't
needs to have
drive you
less Enzo.
crazy with the whole case that this could have all been avoided with the lesson that Enzo learned at the very end of the episode.
Okay, so here's my thing. I part of me goes, this episode was pointless. Like
Mm.
nothing was accomplished in this 24 minutes. Literally nothing. But then, on the other hand, I have to remember that this is a show for 7-year-olds.
Mm.
And I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing there was some kind of or I'm guessing there was some kind of like government incentive or tax break that they could go, hey, we're teaching kids good life lessons, give us a tax break or a grant or whatever. And that's probably part of why this episode exists.
Yeah. Mostly my thought on that is they essentially give the television series an entire list of all the specific episodes and whatnot they need to kind of cover or have within their series to kind of fill the docket of what the company has in mind or what can easily be shown on television without causing issues.
Yeah, it could have also been a thing from like YTV and like Toonami who are like, "Hey, you have to do episodes regarding these particular topics." That's totally possible too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one like you
It
have.
is also a marvelous case of it's a very
Are you there,
I
Dave?
can't tell my parents about it because then they won't be able to do the thing. Just lie and then face the consequences.
Yeah, no, I understand why they did the episode. I just don't think the episode's very good. But okay, like I'm willing to put up with this because I'm like, well, I get it. It's a show for kids. You want to teach kids not to lie. Although that in and of itself is kind of disingenuous because, you know, sometimes lying is okay.
Life and existence are very crazy things, aren't they?
But also the thing is like they're telling kids never lie and I'm like, but but sometimes lying is the best option. Anyway, alrighty. So, did you have anything else about this episode, Dave?
I think at the very most is just the counterpoint between the two villains we now have within the episode and the dynamic between the two of them. But additionally, Hack and Slash are amazing within this episode as well. They only have small little bit parts, but it's just like funny shenanigans.
Okay. I don't know if this ever happens because I don't remember the show really at all. I hope we get an episode dedicated to Hack and Slash. Because I would love to see an episode from their point of view where they're just bungling the entire time. I think that could be very fun.
I wouldn't be surprised, but nothing is immediately coming to memory.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's going to be about it for this time. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.